Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Red Elevator. I'm Nina Takesh. This is finally my backyard reveal. As you guys know, I've shared many portions of this on Instagram, but finally today we are going to have the entire backyard reveal on this episode. Follow me. As you can see, this was a very large backyard transformation. We spent quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money redoing it. And it was something that I was planning on doing after the house was built. I built this house approximately 7 years ago, and we totally ran out of cash in order to do the backyard. So now, finally, we were able to do the backyard the way that we really wanted to do it. The only thing that was in this backyard before we started demo and work was literally the pool, as you can see. Everything else was just grass that we threw on, and we knew one day we would tackle this project. The very first thing we did was deal with the fact that the pool had really terrible concrete coping around it. That was probably the most inexpensive way of throwing the pool in during construction, and then knowing that eventually we were going to change it, we just didn't know how or what we were going to do, and so we went with the least expensive option. To figure out what to do with this horrible concrete coping, I must say I really detested it, was quite a challenge. We thought about removing it, but the cost of demo and quite possibly shattering the bottom of the plaster pool with the demo was literally cost prohibitive. So one solution we found, which was actually the best solution, was to cover the coping with tile. As you can see, we laid the tile right on top of the coping, raised the backyard elevation so that everything would be flush, and we tiled everything in this gorgeous outdoor porcelain material that is very durable and actually looks really great. Drainage is also a very important consideration when you're doing your backyard. So what we did was, in order to make sure that nothing went into the pool from the new sort of elevation, was to add these long channel drains against the pool so that when it did rain, the water would flow down, and instead of going into the pool, it would fall into the channel drain. Once we designed where the tile was going to go, we carried it through and created a pathway that didn't exist before between the pool and the loggia. I'm now standing in this loggia. We got this gorgeous light, actually, now that I'm standing here, from CIRCA lighting, which is an outdoor pendant light. And we created this fountain, which didn't exist here before, to give it a sense of zen, serenity, and peace, and continued the tile from the loggia all the way to the end of this nook where this fountain sits. From there, we created a hardscape, quote unquote hardscape, where we added white pebbles over a grate. These grates are really wonderful to use when you're using pebble rocks to create pathways, because what they do is they create stability. So we've got these pebble grates that are under the pebbles and have created these beautiful pathways where you can exit the property and enter the property. We then lined the sides of the pebbles with mondo grass, and we had these large ficus hedges behind that gave us privacy, which we planted right when we moved in about 7 years ago. So they have literally matured and look wonderful against the pebble pathway. Then what we decided to do, which was really great, was create these Boxwood Spheres. We bought them actually mature, and we planted them in corners and in different places of the property to create a little visual interest and something that looked very manicured, because my style is something that is a lot more manicured but has a little bit of whimsy in it. You will see in different areas we have small planters, square planters that we created, where we have an olive tree, a multi-branch olive tree is what we used. They were fairly small when we planted them, and they have grown actually to be quite large. Around them we have these great sort of boxwood spheres that I talked about, and a boxwood hedge around to create the illusion of depth and a border in a sense that really was necessary to give the space some definition and to create a planter that would bring in a lot of green against the new tiled floors. Along the main wall of the property, which we actually built ourselves in order to do retaining work and be able to create this property, we planted Japanese blueberries. Japanese blueberries don't need a lot of dirt, which is an issue that we had because we had a footing where the wall was, where we really couldn't plant anything that needed to have deep roots. So the Japanese blueberry was the perfect option to plant along this very long linear wall that you can see that goes all the way towards the basketball court. A great idea that we came up with during construction was to save money, was in fact to put our pavers down, which are the actual tiles that we purchased. Our tile, in fact, were 24 by 24, and instead of pouring concrete and creating pavers and complicating things, we decided to use the exact same tiles that we used throughout the property and place them along the side of this wall to create a pathway. Additionally, what we did is we put mondo grass in between these pavers to create a very soft, warm, and green space that didn't look very industrial and brought a lot of greenery to the pathway. The next big part that we needed to tackle was a barbecue area, a place to sit, to dine, and of course a cozy place to have cocktails after a long day's work. What was very important about the barbecue is I didn't want to have the typical barbecue fronts that have lots of steel doors in front of them. I find them to be actually repulsive. Sorry, I don't know how else to say it. They're so ugly. So I decided to get a piece of quartzite, 2 pieces of quartzite. It was at 1 slab of quartzite, and eliminate having drawer fronts. We don't need the stainless steel drawer fronts everywhere to have access to the barbecue or to have access to the refrigerator. So I was able to eliminate all those ugly drawer fronts and create a very seamless, chic barbecue station. My barbecue is by Heston from Aspire, so thank you for my fantastic barbecue. I do love it. It's really high end and it cooks beautifully. At the moment, due to the global shortage, it has been very difficult to source outdoor furniture, but I've been lucky enough to one by one get the pieces that I've needed. I now have part of the set of the DWR design within reach. Dining table, these are all outdoor pieces. I have the lounge set, which is the 2-seater, and then I have the club chairs, but more importantly, I also have the chaise longues. As you can see at the moment, I only have 2 chaise longues. I will be acquiring more as time goes on, and except I also need cushions, but that's a whole other story of logistical issues that we are having in order to source those cushions, but soon I will have them in my patio. Side tables that you see along the chaise longues are actually, in fact, made by moi. I made them out of the additional quartzite that was left over from the barbecue. I wanted to have cute side tables that could withstand the environment, that could stand the weather, and look really elevated and chic, and so we literally made these from our marble slab. The fireplace was a very important part of the backyard. There's a lot of wind because we are a little bit on a hill, as you can see, and when there's a lot of wind, it gets very cold, even on warm summer nights. So what I did was I happened to have a fountain back there that didn't work because of the fact that the wind would blow the water everywhere. So as you can see, even designers make mistakes, we all make mistakes, and the waterfall was really not the best idea. So instead of demoing the waterfall, I came up with the idea of throwing in a firebox, closing it up, and creating now what you see is this great fireplace. This fireplace brings warmth to an evening out in the veranda, and it is a firebox that we purchased, and then we just popped it straight into what was the old fountain and created a place where we can gather at night. Don't forget outdoor pathway lighting. These are very important. We decided to pop in these really beautiful black minimal outdoor lights that line the boxwood little walls that we created, and this really elevates the space at night. I wish I could show you what the space looked like at night, but we did do a great deal of lighting and landscape lighting design to create a mood so that when you're outside, you're actually noticing the plants and not just random spaces. Next to the pool, after we did the tiling, we still wanted to have a nice patch of grass, and so we planted a very large area where we were able to do grass. We actually built a very small pony wall that allowed us to flatten the grass because there was a bit of a grade that was going down. So now we have a nice flat pad. And lastly, on the hillside above the retaining wall that's towards the back near the pool, what we decided to do is, instead of leaving the indigenous plants that were there, which were pretty, but we wanted something to be a little bit more interesting, we decided to plant some of our favorite plants. So I love saucer magnolias because I like to cut them and have them for dinner parties. We did some lavender, some Pride of Madeira, some agave. We also did some of those Japanese blueberries along the periphery. So basically we picked up all the flowers that were in the landscape that we had below, and we trickled them above on the hillside. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Red Elevator, stepping outside of the elevator and going into my backyard. This was a love project, a project that I really enjoy doing because of the fact that we spend so much time living in California, living outside. Again, I want to thank everybody for being so loyal and wonderful and kind in your comments. I want to know which part of the transformation you found most interesting. Was it the hillside landscaping? Was it the pool? Was it the grading? Was it the pathway? What was it? The furniture maybe? I want to know what you loved most, and I can't wait to see you guys here next week on the Red Elevator. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next Sunday.